Right, I think we are live here, George.
We are live.
All right. Well, hi everyone. I want to take a moment to thank you for joining Your Voice versus the Noise. My name is Bernie DeSantis. I'm an online event consultant and the owner of Insignia Training Partners. I'm joined by my friend George Torok. He's the CEO of Superior Presentations and a speech coach. Today we decided to do a LinkedIn Live because we wanted to talk about authenticity in an AI world, right? AI is everywhere. Content is easier than ever to produce. Trust is actually becoming harder than ever to gain from people. And the differentiator now is not the abundance of information, right? How much you have. It's how authentically you can communicate it with your audience. So today we're going to dive down that rabbit hole a little bit. We're going to talk about how you make sure that your voice cuts through the noise as opposed to adding to all of that noise out there. So George, I'll get us kicked off. What does authenticity mean? Excuse me, why does authenticity matter more now than it did even 3 to 5 years ago?
Bernie, because we don't know who or what to trust anymore. And when it comes to building relationships, both personal and certainly for business, trust is the fundamental. That's the foundation of any relationship. And when people can create fake images, when people can get AI to write for them, when people can get AI to show up pretending to be them, they create these images, trust goes down. And we went through the pandemic where we had to communicate in this way and found that first of all we had to adjust to this virtual world, and then when we were able to actually get back in person with people, we were so relieved that we could meet people in person. Yet this way of communicating is still valid. However, we need to be more aware of the trust.
Absolutely. I feel like there's a lot of, how do I say this, hollowness to a lot of the communication that's out there right now, right? The AI, while it allows us to automate things and to potentially restructure regurgitations of things that are out there, it seems very same most of the time. Even, I'll even admit it, for myself, sometimes when I'm using AI today, I have to read it and reread it and massage it and look it over and over again because it looks like everything else that people are pushing out there, even if it is something that I put in there and just had it kind of reorganized. And I think that we're to a point now where so many people are leaning so heavily on AI that the human nuances really have become the advantage, right? That is what makes you different, as opposed to being perfectly polished on screen and having the Photoshop and all of the things. It's actually showing some of your flaws, some of your vulnerability that makes you more authentic today. Right, like there's a lot of overproduced stuff out there, and obviously, as a producer, I'm helping my clients put on a more polished image. But there's still a very human element to that delivery, right? It's actually connecting with the audience for them to be able to pick up the message. I think you actually said it in one of our previous conversations, George. Tech amplifies people's presence. It doesn't replace it. So whatever that presence is, especially if it's unintentional, that could be a bad thing. But whatever that presence is, it's just going to be amplified one way or another through AI or through the technology.
And yes, when the technology and what it magnifies more than anything else is our flaws, and it lessens our compassion image. And people tend to freeze up when they get on camera or when they're using technology. They go into that flat voice. They go into the deadpan face, and we're wondering, okay, are you really alive? Are you really there? Do you care at all?
Yeah, I've seen recently a lot more people have been using the AI camera feature that makes your eyes look like you're always looking at the camera. Sometimes when I see that, it just comes off as really weird, really inauthentic. Like I don't feel like it's them. I would rather see somebody look off screen for a second than them, no matter which way their head is turning, they're always looking at the camera. Like you should look at the camera, should simulate that eye contact, but that technology I think makes you less authentic. It doesn't feel as human.
You're right. If you and I are sitting in the same room and we're talking to each other, there are moments when I'm going to look away because I'm thinking, I'm gathering my next thought. And the other point is if I just dead stare you into a staring contest, it gets kind of creepy feeling after a while. So there needs to be that human flexibility and adaptability to the environment and the moment, which gets frozen when we start using technology.
Yeah. Well, we start overusing technology, right? Overusing. I think that it's interesting, and we'll kind of shift gears here in a second. There was a time where people were coming to the Zoom meetings, and COVID was what it was, and it was just a very one-way conversation. And then people started to figure out that there's ways to leverage the technology. They start using polling questions and the breakout rooms and all of the things. But then inevitably, the person who just learned about polling questions, as an example, instead of doing 2 or 3 and filling it out throughout the presentation, now all of a sudden you have 27 of them, and it's like that is just way too much. That is too much technology, overusing it, trying to overcompensate, I think. So when we talk about AI's impact on trust and on credibility and our presence, whether we're showing up in person or virtually, where do you see AI really helping, and where do you see it actually hurting people's credibility, George?
AI is a great tool for compiling data. Go back and review this conversation and pull out the best ideas from there. Range them on, maybe give me a suggested priority, but don't tell me what to do, just give me a suggested. AI is not good for being creative because AI only searches for what's out there and says, here's everything I found. And even then, and here's the key. Here's everything that I found. Doesn't mean that I found everything. I've had this before where I've asked AI to research a person who's died recently, and I pointed this out into them and said, so-and-so just died. However, I'm impressed by the work. Please give me a summary of their work and how they've been supported by other people. And then the AI came back and said, okay, here's the work. And by the way, this person is still alive. And I said, no. I saw the death notice. It was in the news. And then it came back, I'm sorry. Oops.
Yeah, I mean, we as human beings obviously fall into that as well. We only have access to as much information as we have available to us. And I think that's both the benefit and the Achilles heel of AI is it does have access to all of that available information, but we're relying on it to figure out what's most important, what's most relevant, and trusting that it's going to regurgitate the right thing for us.
And that's where we need to be cautious. We can't accept everything that AI gives us as fact. And we could ask it for the source. What's your source? Now, the next question is the source credible? So we can't give up the right to question the information, the data, the way it's presented. We need to be constantly curious. And AI isn't curious. Curiosity is a wonderful attribute that we have as human beings. And I believe my favorite curious person was Albert Einstein. He was curious about the universe. He had no AI. All he had was his curiosity to think about and ask questions about what's going on in the universe and what if. And those are questions he would ask himself. And we need to tap into that curiosity that we all have in ourselves instead of saying, it's done. I asked it to do something for me. It's done. I'll send it out.
Check the box. Yeah, I mean, and in that vein, right, we just kind of take what it says, and we will have, these overly scripted, robotic feeling communications. We'll plug that into teleprompters, and then we'll read it. It'll create messaging that sounds super, unfortunately, generic, right? Like I've received, before the show started, we I talked a little bit about a message that I received. It was some AI generation, and it just kept on coming, even though I interacted and I said, hey, yeah, let's meet. It just kept on coming because they put it on autopilot, they set it and forgot it, and now I'm not going to meet with that person because I've recognized what was going on there, what the game was, right? And not that I'm mad that they were using AI or automation in any way, but when I engaged, there was no human there to engage with, and that was a problem for me.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Bernie. It AI can be an efficient tool to do some mundane tasks, and it could do the task of an initial reach out to people, and then you need to jump in because now you're actually made a contact with people, and you need to make it a human conversation, a human connection, and go forward from there. And for example, I've recently received some emails about people who wanted to improve the SEO of my website, and the message started like this: "Oh, your website," and they used and I have more than one website, and they used the domain. They said the content looks wonderful, looks really good. However, you have some SEO errors. Would you like to tell me what they are? Well, this particular website right now isn't live. It's dormant right now. It's parked. So they're lying to me in the first message. And that's why we need to make that human connection, because we really want to believe people. But if you're going to lie to me right off the bat, want nothing to do with you.
Yep, absolutely. And I think, again, AI is a good tool for a lot of things. And I think that at higher skill levels, people can make AI seem very human, right? You can actually put out some really good content if you have it planned properly within AI. You understand how to prompt it properly. But I think so many people are just desperate to get into using AI that they are taking whatever it provides and using that as gospel, and that becomes a problem. When you're talking about more the human elements of delivering a presentation, communication, right, your messaging with people, the AI can help you structure your thoughts and your message, but it should still be you. And it's never going to replace your conviction, your passion, your excitement, your energy for the thing that you're doing. It's just not. It's not a human being. It can't. It can pretend. It can give you a few phrases that it thinks will be exciting to someone, but it's never actually going to be natural human excitement that you as the human have when you're talking about something that excites you.
And yes, and humans need to remember that emotion is a normal part of how we communicate. And too many people, even without AI, when they communicate in camera, they think they need to be emotionless. They think they need to be flat to be taken seriously. But the reality is we are emotional beings. And there are some parts of your message that you will feel emotional about. And if you want to start a conversation with me, it helps it at least if you smile when we start the conversation, because then I'll say, oh, he's a friendly guy. He's not going to chew my head off.
Right.
And yet some people, hi, I'm happy to be here. Really glad to see everybody. Oh, yeah, we're going to have fun today.
Yep. I mentioned this in the pre-show. I did this years ago in call centers, and it's actually part of some of the things that I teach now. But, that when you're thinking about virtual presence or even just stage presence, you think back to Mighty Mouse back in the day, right? His catchphrase, "Here I come to save the day." If you say that, with passion and with energy, and you engage your body language, I'm probably going to believe that you're coming to save the day, right? But if my body language is stiff and I don't have any tone of voice, and it's just the words, "Here I come to save the day."
Here I come.
He's gonna believe me.
Save the day.
Right, exactly. Like you've got to actually.
I remember that
message if you're coming to save the day. But I think it's a good, relevant example to how people communicate, be it on stage or virtually. Like they kind of get within themselves instead of going out, right, and really showing the energy, the true passion of what they're doing, right? Thinking about the body language, the words that they're using, the tone of voice, the pace, the inflection. All of those things matter.
And Bernie, curious enough, I'm trying to remember how many decades ago it was that I watched Mighty Mouse. Yet I remember that what he said, and the way he said it. Here I come to say. And the reason is, and it's not because I'm thinking about it every day, but the reason is because the emotion there and it comes through. That's what sticks with us. It's not just the words. It's the whole message that comes through in the body language, the emotion, the image. And that's what we remember. The messages that we deliver, if we want our messages to be remembered, they need to be delivered in a human way. Otherwise, we forget. We forget most of what we hear. And if we sit through another webinar, another online meeting, and it's all flat, we don't remember what the heck was that about? Another wasted hour of my life.
Yeah. Right. And we're just kind of talking about, general presentations. Like there are people who go to school for a really, really long time and to learn how people learn and to develop courses that should resonate with people. But more often than not, you still come out of even corporate training that should be structured and should have all of the things. Like person who knows what they're doing has put it together and it still comes off flat because it's not delivered all that well.
And yeah, and I've encountered that. It's funny with some medical personnel who have default to technical terms and technical language when they're talking to you, and you're sitting there thinking, is this serious or not? And, am I going to die?
Right.
Should I be worried about this? Is there a cure for this? How do we fix this? What do I need? And the person just defaults. They become AI themselves. They become just total technical and lose the compassion that we really need.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So kind of move this along then, George, what would you say are some of the most common mistakes that people are making when they start leveraging some of this technology into their communication?
Well, one mistake, a simple mistake, common mistake, is that they look at the screen. So right now I'm looking over at you on the screen. And your feeling is that I'm not looking at you because I'm not looking at the camera that's over here. And I have a setup where my camera is actually in front of the screen. So it's easy for me to look at the camera and even look at you, but it's still close to each other. But too many people have a camera up here and they're looking at a screen down here. Yep. And they think that they're making eye contact because they're looking at your face on the screen, but they're not. And when we lose that eye contact, we lose that connection, because eye contact is how we see you as a human being, and we go, oh, you're actually talking to me, as opposed to talking to the screen over here. So that's certainly the first big mistake. Another common mistake, is people talk too long, too much. We have, this drains us. This setup drains our energy, and therefore people need shorter messages and more breaks.
Yeah, I am with you. I think from the camera perspective, you're right. A lot of people, I think they take kind of the streaming gamer mentality, and they have a camera way up over here on the right of them. I see a lot of people that are working from laptops, and the camera is well below them. And so it's staring up their nose the entire, that look, right?
Look up into the caverns. Is there anything up there?
Presence is one thing, but I think that you start to lose credibility when you don't think about how you are leveraging the technology that you have, right? Like being able to say that I'm using AI, cool. But if I actually don't know how to use it and it messes everything up, it doesn't really matter that I've used AI, right? It doesn't matter if I'm doing a virtual event, if my camera is upside down, or it sounds like I'm talking through a fishbowl, or my lights are behind me and so you can't actually see my face. Like, all of those things you should be leveraging when you're doing this, but you have to be doing them the right way, right? You have to make sure that you're using them properly.
And Bernie, what are you finding that the mistakes they're making when they are putting on a virtual event?
Well, I think the biggest mistake that I see, quite frankly, George, is that people believe they can take in-person content and just jump on camera and deliver it the exact same way, thinking that they're going to get a similar outcome or result that they do in person. And it's a different dynamic, right? People don't necessarily think about the fact that in person, they're looking at you directly with their own eyes. They're hearing you with their own ears. Here in this space, it's not what we're doing, right? There's a camera that is translating my image onto your screen, then you are seeing it with your eyes. I only have this little frame for you to be able to see all of my body language that you would typically see in person. Most people believe that they can say and do the exact same thing that they do in person and virtual and get the same result. You just can't. It is a different medium of communication, it's a different type of stage. There are different elements that need to be considered and addressed.
And Bernie, what is your advice if there's 1, 2, or 3 things people could do right now immediately for their next online program? What could they do to make it a
Well,
little bit
without
better?
stepping on your toes here, George, I'll leave most of the delivery pieces and speaking pieces to you. But making sure that you're framed properly on camera, right? Make sure that your camera is at about eye level. Make sure that you are looking at it, right? Yeah, you don't want to be that guy who's down here or who's way up here. Like, you want to make sure that you're centered. I would also recommend that if you are planning to do, especially a virtual event, you really do think about engagement, right? How do you keep your audience engaged in the conversation as opposed to just hearing you talk at them for 30 minutes or an hour like we are doing right now in the LinkedIn Live. But yeah, I think it's really important to engage your audience regularly throughout the course of a virtual delivery because we are in the TikTok generation, George. People have really short attention spans. They will last 10 minutes max before they start to check out. And really, I would say 5 is probably the lower end of that threshold.
And Bernie, I was asked to look at a video recently for a person who wanted to be on my podcast. I lasted 2 minutes into the video. Our attention spans are much shorter. There's no question. And that's the biggest challenge that we have as communicators today. It's appreciating people's attention spans, how short they are, which means that we need to engage them. And there are many techniques to engage. You can use the tools of the technology, but you can also use techniques of how you present and how you speak. You want to use stories that are colorful, that capture people's imagination. You bring in analogies like Mighty Mouse, again, because those analogies are colorful and they are memorable. You use language like the word you. You talk about, here's how this is important for you. Here's how you can benefit from that versus everybody, anybody. Those words are not inclusive words. They're actually making it clear that I see you as a crowd. When you say everybody or anybody have any questions? What kind of silly thing is that to say, as opposed to which one of you has the first question? Well, notice the difference, how that feels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it is important to think about the words that we use, right? Because different words mean different things to other people. Simply how you structure a sentence can change the entire meaning of that sentence and how it's received by someone. So I think being conscious of the words and how we use them, how we frame them, how we leverage our intonation and how quickly or slowly, like all of those things matter in your presentation. It has an impact on how someone receives that message.
It's so true. The message, we judge the whole message by what we hear, the words, the sequencing of the words, what we see, the body language, the gestures, and how we hear it, your voice, how that comes across. A simple phrase like, well, that 3-word phrase that some of us say once in a while to that special person, we say, I love you. Or you could say, I love you. Of course I love you. Or you can say, I love.
I always like to use the example, George, of that's a nice outfit today, or that's a nice outfit today. Same words, very different meaning when you take into context, right, the way that it's said and the body language that goes along with it. All right, George, well, we're approaching the end of our time together today, so definitely want to make sure that we end this on time. Obviously, we'd like to encourage anyone who is thinking about their message, how they are delivering it, how they are engaging with their audience, to sign up for our upcoming workshop, The Human Edge Online, Commanding the Virtual Room. We're looking to run this on March 17th, $49 for a 90-minute workshop with George and I, where you are going to focus on not only your presentation delivery with George, but also some of the technical production aspects of running a virtual event as well. So with that, George, what would be one thing you would say would be a key takeaway that you would want people to walk away with from today?
From today, be aware become more aware of how you are perceived. You and your message is perceived. It's not good enough for you to think, I already told them, or I said the right words. Well, maybe not. How were those words heard and interpreted and maybe misinterpreted? So be aware that as superior as we think we are, we're not that good as communicators. And we need to be more aware of how other people feel about us and our message.
I agree. And I think I would just add that, now in this AI world that we live in, right, it is very easy to generate content, but your humanity, your humanness is your edge. That is what people are going to buy, not the dribble that AI is putting out on your behalf. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining our LinkedIn Live today. Again, hope to see you in the workshop in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your day. We'll see you next time.
And you'll see that link in the description, and that'll be on March 17th. Watch for that. Bye for now.
Bye for now.